Hello everyone, I hope you all are well. Grace and peace to you all, and I hope that your businesses are thriving and prospering. I'm here today to respond to a comment that I received on one of my videos here recently. It was a question by one of you, and I'm going to post it right here so you can see it. But we've got Chris, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Chris, how you doing, girl? Thank you for your comment. Chris asked, could I do a video on sole proprietors versus S-Corps, etc. She says that she is a MFT, which I'm interpreting as a marriage and family therapist. And that she moved from an LLC to a sole proprietor, and she's wondering about the process, and really if that was the best decision to make. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And I'm glad that she asked this question because this is actually a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for some time now. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've talked about business entities in the past, but I haven't really gotten a chance to go really in depth into the different types and the benefits associated with each of them. And so that's what today's video is all about. So when it comes to your entity and which one you should choose, there are loads of them for you to choose from, and which one is best for you is going to be, I'm going to preface everything that I'm going to say with this. Which one you should choose is going to be on a case-by-case basis, and I suggest that you speak with an attorney to go through, your state's requirements, the different benefits that come along with each entity on your state level, so that you know which one you should choose based on your specific circumstance. But I'll just go over it generally so that we have a general understanding, and also to be able to give some clarity to Chris since she asked this question. So generally, when it comes to entities, we've got a few different types. And first is a sole proprietorship, right? The second is a partnership. The third is going to be an LLC. And then we've also got corporations as well in the mix. And I'm going to go through briefly all of them and kind of hit the high points so that we have an understanding of what each of them are and the different benefits associated with each of them, and which ones really shouldn't even be in consideration. And like I said, this is general information. If you want specific information tailored to you and your specific situation, I definitely recommend that you reach out to an attorney. If I am someone that you would like to reach out to, as always, my firm's information is going to be in the description bar so that you can get more information on a specific matter for you. But just generally. So let's start with sole proprietors. So sole proprietor generally is...
Be nice.
I'm finding it.
It take you that long to find it?
It does.
Honestly, it's not going to be the best entity structure for most people out there. The sole proprietor is not that girl. She's not. And the reason why I say that is because most of the time when we're going into business, we need to be looking out for liability protection, and how we separate our person, the individual, from our business, right? So you've got you, the person, and you've got you, the business. And we want to make sure that there's a line of separation between the two so that the liabilities of the business don't transfer over to you, the person. And then also, God forbid anything were to happen, you don't want your assets to be up for grabs should anything happen on the business side. And unfortunately, in most circumstances, sole proprietorship is not going to offer you that liability protection that a lot of us really need and require and are looking for when it comes to forming businesses, right? So sole proprietor essentially is the default designation for someone who decided they wanted to go into business. If you right now decided to make a batch of lemonade in your kitchen or a batch of cookies and go to your front, the front of your home or on your sidewalk, and decided to post a lemonade for sale or a cookies for sale sign, you by default are a sole proprietor. There's no protection, there's no separation between you and the business. Everything is one and the same. And there are some obvious concerns where that's concerned. That is not how we want to structure our business, because there's really no protection right? And some states will actually let you pay your good money to register with their Secretary of State as a sole proprietor, knowing good and well it offers no protection whatsoever. Now, Chris, I hope you're watching this because you asked the question. If you have switched from an LLC to a sole proprietor, I really want you to get in touch with an attorney. It could be me, it could be with anybody. I really want you to get in touch with an attorney to really talk through which one is going to be beneficial for you. So that's sole proprietorship. Next one that we're going to talk about is partnership. And I know a lot of people hear the word partnership and they're like, oh my God, yes, I've got a partner in crime. I'm not doing this by myself. I'm doing something big because I'm in a partnership. Partnerships ain't that girl either. She's not. Partnerships are not that girl either. And when it comes to business entities, partnerships sounds like this sexy word, but in all actuality, what it is two sole proprietors who decided to do it together, right? And so there's still no liability protection for either person in the partnership, no matter how many partners you have. You might be spreading out, the burden of running and operating a business, but when it comes to the liability protection, it pretty much stops there. There is none. And so it's just two or more sole proprietors who decided to do business together. No liability protection, no separation between the person and the business, and really it ends up being a mess at the end of the day. And kudos to you for finding people who are willing to go into business with you, but let's do it the right way, right? Let's do it in a way that protects everyone. And partnerships are not going to give you that either. Then we get into our LLC, our limited liability company. That's the first level of business entity structures that we start to see some liability protection and some separation between the person and the business. A limited liability company, essentially when you file it with your Secretary of State, you are essentially telling the world and putting the world on notice that your business is a separate legal person, right? It has its own identity, and if done properly, it has its own bank account, it has its own tax identification number, and it really runs separately from you, the person. You might be the person actually working in the business, but at the end of the day, the liabilities aren't on you, it's on the business in most circumstances. So essentially what that means is that if something happens in the business, somebody's wronged or somebody is a disgruntled customer, they've got to take it up with the business. They can't come after you and your savings account, your house, all of that good stuff. Because there's a separation. There is a distinct line of separation because you filed with the Secretary of State as a limited liability company and you maintained your company by making sure that there's no blurred lines when it comes to the finances. There's a separation with the money. There's a separate business bank account. There's a separate tax identification number, all that good stuff. If something happens in the business, they've got to take it up with the business. They can't come after you, the person, because like I said, generally, most of the time, members are not going to be responsible for the liabilities and the risk associated with the business. One of the benefits that comes along with LLCs is that it doesn't require much to actually manage the business, right? It doesn't have as much formalities included in running it and managing it as you would see at like a corporation level, which we're going to talk about in a second. You're not required to have formal meetings and things of that nature outside of what you as the business owner or owners have decided would work best for the business, but you're not required by law to have those meetings or anything like that. You can really make your own rules when it comes to running and managing an LLC. However it is that it best fits into your lifestyle and the lifestyle you want for yourself, you're really able to make those rules when it comes to LLCs most times through formation documents like an operating agreement and things of that nature. And I can make a separate video if you guys are interested when it comes to operating agreements and the benefits of them and the things that you can include in an operating agreement. But that's going to be one of the ways that keeps your management aspect very flexible because you get to make your own rules essentially. However, you are required to file annually with your state, keeping your registration up to date. it depends on where you live where that's concerned. But in the state of Georgia, you are required to file annual registration and maintenance documents saying that your business is still in good standing and things of that nature. It might vary on a state to state level. So again, I do recommend, if you are looking for specific information regarding your specific situation, reach out to a local attorney in your state where that's concerned. One thing I will say is, like I said, to make sure that you maintain that liability protection, you have to make sure that you are not commingling or mixing things up and muddling things. There has to be a distinct separation between the business and the person, not just with the Secretary of State and the fact that you filed it, but you've got to maintain it as two separate things. Like, you can't use the business credit card to pay for your haircut or to pay for groceries. Like, there can't be this intermingling where that's concerned, because that can then pierce the corporate veil. That's what they call it. It's called piercing the corporate veil when you start to mix things, because now there's not that clear distinction. We can't tell the difference between you, the person, and you, the business. And so generally we see a lot of people who lose that liability protection when they don't keep things separate. When it comes to taxes, by default, there is no tax at the entity level. And so income and losses are passed through to the business owners. And then individual tax returns are only taxed once. But the LLC can also elect to have a different tax designation to kind of add some variation and potentially take advantage of some benefits that are generally given to different corporations. This is where S-Corps comes into the conversation. An S-Corp is not an entity type. You cannot file with your Secretary of State as an S-Corp. You can file your taxes as an LLC as an S-Corp. What I mean by that is that the IRS does not recognize LLCs. So they're either going to pass the taxation through the organization to the business owner, or if the business owner has decided to be taxed as an S-Corp, they can be taxed as an S-Corp. But it is not a designation that you file with your Secretary of State and that it's not the business name, S-Corp. No, it's not like that. You can file as an S-Corp with the IRS when it's time to file your taxes, and that decision as to whether or not you should file as an S-Corp or not is going to be on a case-by-case basis. Again, I recommend speaking with an accountant or a tax professional to make that decision, but there are generally some business benefits that you can take advantage of when it comes to S-Corporation that being an LLC by itself won't afford you. That's LLCs. I hope I demystified a lot of misinformation that is out there. The next one that we're going to discuss is corporations. So if you've ever seen a business name, Inc., that's a corporation. And it is an option for small business owners, but it ends up being more of a headache for a lot of people. Again, speak with an attorney to make that decision for yourself, but it does end up being a headache if you're not ready to manage a corporation, because it does have those formalities that an LLC does not have. You are required to have consistent meetings. There are complex tax and legal requirements. You have to have a board of directors, a formal board of directors that meets and that actually runs the organization. You have to have shareholder meetings. You have to have meeting minutes. And by law, you have to have record keeping as well. And so there are a lot of things that the government, if you will, can control when it comes to how you actually manage your organization if you are filing as a corporation. Now, the personal liability, a lot of people think that that's really what attracts people to corporations, is because shareholders, which the owner would be a shareholder, just the majority shareholder, are generally not going to be liable for any business liabilities or debts of the corporation. And so that's mainly the attraction to filing as a corporation is the fact that there is even more liability protection. But again, it can become a headache if you're not managing it correctly. You can still pierce that corporate veil, just like I was talking about with the LLC. If you are not keeping up with those formalities, you're not keeping your required minutes, keeping your required record keeping, having that formal board and things of that nature, you can pierce the corporate veil that way as well. Now, when it comes to management, a corporation is managed by the board of directors. And they're usually elected by the shareholders, right? And so directors can appoint officers who run the daily operations. But again, a lot of complex things going on when it comes to corporation. And the taxation aspect of it, as well, is probably another attraction point because it's taxed at the entity level. The taxes don't pass through to the owners or to the shareholders. And if there are dividends to pay out, it's paid out to shareholders. You see, there are a lot of complex things going on when you are designating yourself as a corporation. And I'm not saying that it's not the best decision for you. I am saying it is a more involved decision. That might be the best decision for you, but in order to make that determination, you really have to know what you're getting yourself into, number one. And you really have to talk with an attorney to make sure that that's what you want, as well as an accountant to make sure that that's what you want for your life. Fear not. If you decide to start out as an LLC and run your business as an LLC, and then once you get, to a household name status, right, and people want to buy into that, it might be beneficial at some point along your journey to transition from an LLC to a corporation. That's completely fine. But at that point, you've now got funding to back the complexities that come along with running a corporation. A corporation is generally not going to be the best decision, at least not when you're starting out. But again, talk to someone that is a professional, a legal professional, an accounting professional that's going to be able to walk you through that process and help you make that determination for yourself. So those are the four main entity structures that you can choose from. That's where we're going to leave it for today. I hope that today's video was beneficial to you. I hope that it was helpful. I hope you learned something that helped to kind of take the fear and the confusion out of business entities and which ones are out there, which ones you can choose from. I hope that it was helpful information to you and that it helped to clear some things up for you. If you have any further questions or if you want to comment or, get some clarity on something that we discussed today, leave a comment down below and we'll continue talking that way. Until my next video, grace and peace to you all. I hope that your businesses are thriving and prosperous, and I'll see you next time.